presentation today will be around the topic of kind of using artificial intelligence, I guess, in a way to kind of reduce, to see whether it can reduce kind of safety or increase safety in the construction industry. And the presentation will be given by Dr. Rita Yi-Man Lee, if I pronounced that correctly. So she is an associate professor in the Department of Economics and Finance at Hong Kong Shui Yan University. And she has authored over 300 articles and 12 chapters in several books covering a wide range of topics, including but not limited to construction safety and health, and a number of other issues, and applied artificial intelligence. She's recipient of highly competitive grants from Research Grant Council, ARC, Linkage Grant, Public Health Research Grant, to name a few. She previously served as an Endeavour Research Fellow at the University of South Australia and a visiting scholar at RMIT in Australia, the University of Regina and Fang Chia University in Taiwan. She's also been involved in grant and research activities at the Canadian Institute of Health Research, the National Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council. Over the years, she's won many local and international awards, and she's also the founder and director of a sustainable real estate research center. So, well, it's a great honor to have you talk to us, Rita, and I'll be keen on listening your presentation. So before you start, just wanted to kind of like remind people that the session will be recorded. Also to make sure that we don't have any feedback or other kind of background noises. If you please kind of like keep your microphone muted. There will be opportunities to ask questions at the end of the seminar, and you can put in questions during the seminar in the chat function. So I think with that, I think that's everything I needed to say. So Rita, please, over to you.
Yeah. So I will begin my talk. Okay, so my talk is can a chatbot enhance hazard awareness in construction industry? I guess most of us that when we are reading news, watching the news, and also student discussion, a lot of us we are talking about the ChatGPT. Even though for today I'm not talking about ChatGPT, but there's a somewhat that is related because both of them they are related to a chatbot. For ChatGPT, that is like that is like usually that it has got a lot of the different function. But for us, like when we talk about this kind of the chatbot for today, that we mainly talk about the we actually only mainly talk about those that is related to construction hazard awareness. So it's like very specialized in that area, in that particular area. And then, before I go into my detail, before I go into the presentation details, so I would like to introduce a bit myself. So I mainly do research on the real estate economics, construction health and safety, apply AI, that kind of things. And then, so I myself is doing all these kind of things for a couple of years, or for many years already. And then I actually did my research in construction safety related stuff that it started when it was about when I was in the year 3. So it's an undergraduate year 3 and up till now. So it's many years. So I think this area is actually the area for which I have worked for the longest. But apart from that, I have actually also have done a lot of like applied AI research in research field 5 to 6 years. The main reason is that it is like getting much more important in the city. And then when we talk about like, for example, when we talk about the safety training, for example, that sort of things that, well, AI, that they have got a much more better role. I will also introduce a bit more later on. So a bit of the introduction. So construction safety is actually a long-term global problem. So with 75% of the European non-fatal work injuries happening, and psychologists believe that the human error results from failures in human recognition, impacts the perception, recognition and also decision making. So a lot of circumstances, we believe that a human error, it actually plays a very important role in all kinds of like construction hacks problem, and then so as like safety problem, and so as like accidents at the end of the day. And then that's why that most of the construction company, they have actually spent a lot of money in like providing safety training, and then finding ways or means to reduce the accident chances. So a lot of circumstances that in case of Hong Kong, for example, the companies actually spend a lot of money on like finding ways to reduce accidents, because if there is one accident, if there's a fatal, for example, they have to investigate until they can figure out what are the main causes. And then before that, they have to close the construction site for a few days, which costs a lot of money. So apart from the costing a lot of money, the main problem that we have associated is that because of like if we have got one worker that is like that is killed during the accidents, that means that the construction workers that they have got like a lot of different types of skills. For example, sometimes it is quite difficult to find somebody who to replace him or her, and of course it also causes a lot of like economic losses as well. So like, for example, the construction company has to pay a lot of compensation for construction workers who die or whatsoever. And then for the so what we have seen is that a lot of circumstances in many different countries, so they may have got some kind of like recommended practices for safety and health. And then while we know that hazard recognition largely depends on the worker's ability to detect the hazards, individuals' working experience enhance the hazard awareness. So we know that there is a kind of relationship between the two. So if you work longer, probably that you have got much more better, you may have got much more solid training by practice, that you know that what this one you cannot do it, that one you cannot do it, as otherwise then you will fall into trap, or you may hurt yourself, or you may see that your labor that they also have got whatsoever problem, then we know it. But then the question is that sometimes that we may find that, like for example, those who are novice, and then they may not know about these hazards, and even though if they work for a long time, sometimes that they may have already forgotten that this is a hazard. They only know that they have to save the time, but they forgot that they have to be like very very safe, and then they have to work safely. And then sometimes they actually forget it because they have got a lot of the tasks they have to complete, and then a lot of them they are paid as piecemeal. So once they finish it, then they will be able to get somebody back, as otherwise they cannot. So previous research found that the American 10-hour operational safety and health administration and hazard awareness training program improved the workers' attitudes towards safety. So if there is like, you have got a training, and then for 10 hours, just 10 hours, that it is sufficient for them to like to have got like some kind of like safety training, and then they had improved it. Okay. And then while face-to-face or on-site safety training was typical before COVID, confirmation of a human-to-human COVID transmission via droplets and contact has led to many lockdowns and increased the need for online mobile training. So a lot of circumstances, you may say, hey, let's do it face-to-face, right? If there's a face-to-face, then you can just then you can just talk to each other, and then you can exchange your idea. If you have got something that you don't understand, you can raise your hand. You can actually show your that you can tell the others that I do know. That's it, right? But that is not what we usually have during the times of lockdown, during the times of COVID. And that was the time also when we have changed, when we have got a change in culture, where, for example, now that we are like presenting, that I'm presenting in Hong Kong, and while you guys that you are in Manchester, and then there's something for which that it is like previously it is not very common. Even though that we may have got, sometimes we have got like academic meeting that we may use like online facility, but it's not very common. But now you can see it is so common that a lot of the people that they even do not find. So in terms of learning, we have also seen a boom in those like online learning, such as like, for example, Coursera. and then ethics, and also other types of tools for which that they just learn online and like YouTube, for example. It seems that not done has actually changed our culture. So for the research method, we actually we try to develop a chatbot safety training. So so that the most common, so that you can see that actually we try to develop our chatbot by using the bot father, and then make a chatbot through the Python, using Python, and then we make a few of the bots, and then the bots will actually chat with the with those people who are like nervous, or like some of the other where they have got some kind of like experience already, and then to talk to them so as to give them another kind of experience that, well, we have got that you have got this kind of the experience, and then probably that it may be able to improve the memory, so that you can have got a much more solid memory on the area. The whole idea actually it's come from some students. We have got students who have got a VR training, and then they wear the headset, and afterwards, after experiencing VR, then the students told me, then the two students told me that, well, they can still remember the fall from heights very clearly. They still have got that kind of sense of feeling. And then so that by the time I think that, well, probably that if we use like something as a chatbot, because we actually use a chatbot for learning. For example, we use chatbot for learning languages, okay, for like learning programming, C#, Python, whatever. We actually use a chatbot as well. But then the thing is that, well, is it possible that we try to use this kind of method so as to like to improve the hazard awareness when we don't have got a teacher besides us? Because we actually, it's very hard for sometimes that we have to gather all the people that at the same time to open a class, because usually if we need to teach face to face, of course we have got like much more larger class, and we when we talk about like a larger class, then normally that we would try to have got more people that we have to gather a large crowd of students as well. But this may not be possible all the time, because like the construction work is like some people that they may work in the morning section, they work in one site, in the afternoon section they work in the other sites, or they may just work for 10 days, and after 10 days they are gone. So therefore we think that, well, probably that it is possible for us to develop a chatbot so that they allow them to talk to the chatbot instead, and then they will just talk to the chatbot, and then they don't need to like that sort of things that they have to like change, that they have to find a time to like do some face-to-face training, and they can even train it by the time they were at night as well. Like for example, now that we are now at around 10 something today, and it's still possible. But for teaching face-to-face, of course, that is not possible. Now, the most common injuries, like for example, like falling from heights, object strike, and also electric shock. We have got like all these kind of like accidents activities. That kind of activities that drive to accidents, and of course we have got some other issues that lead to accidents as well. And then for the two representative training figures for here, so you can see that we have got the HKSYU bot. So it is a kind of chatbot. So it has got both the Chinese and also English. The main reason is that because we have got for the participants, actually we have got some participants who may not actually know English. Okay, so they actually need Chinese. And then by the time that we make that out, and we also have to ensure that those who read the journal articles, that they know exactly what it is. So we actually have picked some of the copyright-free photos from online, and then we have picked some of the photos. Like for example, this one is just like something that so it's just like the cutter that is like very close to the hand of the worker, which is very common, where the worker that he or she may not be aware of the fact that it's so dangerous that you do not wear the glove. Which is also very common. So the picture that we try to use is actually very common type of the accidents problem that we have seen. Like for example, this one is just like very common when they do not wear the glove. whatsoever cutting activities, a lot of workers, they do not do it. They just use a cutter, and then they do not cut that, and they do not wear the glove as well. And then sometimes there's a kind of a protective measure problem. So another one this guy, for example, that he has not wear the protection glove, and also like the goggles as well. And then for another one that is just like very dangerous, because there are too many people on the same on this one, and then it's so dangerous that it may be like overweight, and then overweight is an issue as well. And then sometimes the workers, they just want to finish quick, so they have got a very large number of people that stick together in somewhere around there. And then so that we have got the chatbot actually asks questions about the hazards in each photo, and then it lets the individuals answer the questions. And the chatbot itself, that they also have got the database which can gather some of the answers as well, so that we can analyze it. But we cannot find any very special, so that we have not reported that here. So for the research method, so after the training, you may ask a question. So after the training, how can you tell that, well, this training is useful or this training is not useful? So that is related to what I have done for my secondary school life. So in my secondary school life, sometimes we might go to the photo taking. We may go to photo taking. We may go to the game store to have fun. And then one of the game that we always play is a photo hunt. So for photo hunt, we have got like 2 photos. So the 2 photos that you have to compare and contrast, see whether or not that they have got some different in terms of in the photos. And then we have to point it out. Like this photo, it has got problem. That photo, it has got problem. This photo is different from another photo because of whatever reason. So we try to figure out which points that they are different. So that refers to photo hunt in the game. And then that games was actually the initial point why we have got this eye tracking stuff. So for the eye tracking stuff, what kind of thing is this? Actually, it is usually used in the marketing, in the marketing side, where in case of marketing, then they will try to see whether or not that if I have got a website, see whether or not the people will be attracted to, like, for example, for here, the red cup or the blue cup or whatsoever thing. They want to see whether or not there's something for which they attract the eyeballs, so that when they design the website, for example, they can use some skills, some better skills, so they can cover the area. And then that is what it is usually do there. And then for the research participants, so what they have to do is that they have to fill in the background information, the SF trial Volume 2 questionnaire. So half of the volunteers underwent the chatbot safety training. So so you may ask a question. So what does it relate to the what does it relate to the eye tracking part then? On the 5th day, all participants, they have to take the eye movement test. So that is something for which is related to this eye tracking stuff. And then this of the eye tracking stuff that they can allow us to see whether or not that after 5 days that they can still remember it very clearly, or the 5 days that they have already forgotten everything, so that the chatbot training actually is of no use. So, and then finally, we operate the experimental platform to collect the eye tracking maps and also data. So we try to see whether or not that there's some kind of changes, and then whether or not that which group of the participants that they change more. So for the eye tracker, so for the testing photo, we have got 2 photos. So for a photo, for this one, for example, this one, it has got somebody who do not wear the shoe. So of course, in Hong Kong, the people they usually wear the shoe, but then so as in mainland, people also wear the shoe as well. But then what you have seen is that actually the shoe is missing. It's just indicate that there's like absence of the protective shoe. Because even though the shoe is usually worn by workers, but then they may not have worn the shoes that is a protective one. And then so that for the for this one, for example, we try to let them took the test, and then see and determine the hexes that show in the photo, and then let them pick where is it. So we also allow them to have got the options. So option 1, 2, and 3 in this photos. For example, in the one with those 2 photos, so you can see that there are 3 options. And then actually in the test B, that they are more complex because there are more activities there. Why it is more complex? You can see that because apart from the because the one that is on the right hand side, you can see that there are a lot of like different options. We have got like 4 options there, and then the photo itself looks much more complicated because they have got some other things in the photo that make it much more complicated. And then for the factors that we try to test is that we try to test whether or not they have used a chatbot that it can improve their safety hazard awareness, or whether or not that the complexity is an issue that it affects the hazard awareness coupled with the chatbot, or whether or not that they have experience or they have like limited experience in the construction industry, coupled with the chatbot that it affects their hazard awareness. So that's why that when we have got like the 2 photos here, we try to pick a photo for which is much more complex, so that and we try to see whether or not that the chatbot can help us to train some workers when they see something that's similar. So of course, it's the chatbot content is somewhat similar and link to these one and see whether or not that they have got some kind of relationship. So we try to use an area of interest and also eye tracking matrix. So the first step was to define the area of interest in each of the test image, and which was shown as options in the Q2 platform to perform the eye tracking maps and data from the online system. So the area of the interest indicates the hexes that the research participants identify. So they have to identify whether or not that this part that is like they have got the whether or not that this were there any issue in calibrating the eye tracking? It can be quite tricky. Yes, that's why that you can see that actually we have got a lot of failure. Actually, we have done a lot of cases, and a lot of them they are failure. So the one that you have seen, we have tested for many times before that it looks much more better. That is true. So anyone who have done the eye tracking, you may find out there are a lot of like failure cases. So sometimes we have called them to like do the experiment. They have done everything, but then it cannot be found in the database. So we have got a lot of the problem like this. So thank you for your question. And then so another one, another page. So in test A, so we have got like option 1 and 2 are actually local area of interest, and the option 3 is a wide area of interest. So and then option 4 is actually having a wide area of interest as well. And the second, the background algorithm of the AI tracking perform automatically calculate the matrix for these area of interest. So we try to use the eye tracking with the AI, and then the AI will help us to calculate the matrix for the area of interest automatically, which includes like fixation accounts, duration time, and the time to the first fixation. So see whether or not that, for example, firstly they will the eyeball actually focus on, like, for example, option 2 here, or the eyeball actually focus more on the fit here whatsoever. And then we try to see through the AI eye tracking. You may ask a question, hey, why not we try to use like an ordinary eye tracking? Because the ordinary eye tracking it requires the participants that you must go to the lab. And then because when we did this experiment at the time, it was actually just in the time of the lockdown. Many participants actually they do not want to go outside, or even if they go outside, then they would just say that, well, I don't want to go to the university, which is too far away. Even though it is not really far away, just 10 minutes go up to a hill. And then therefore that is the main reason for which they will try to use the eye tracking, where they can actually do the eye tracking at their home. And then sometimes that it also implies that they can find a place that they sit comfortably, most leisurely, and then they can do it in a much more better way. Okay. And then the research method, the fixation counts demonstrate how many respondents fix their gaze on the selected object at least once. So fixation duration time report how long a respondent looked at the area of interest in seconds. In record when a person fixed their gaze and also the area of interest outside or inside the area of interest. So say for instance, suppose that if the Haagen-Dazs here is the area of interest. So you can see that, however, not many fixation here. So it means that well, a lot of circumstances then the people actually they are not focusing on this hazard if you just comparable to that, and then they may focus on other thing else, like for example the one in blue. Okay, so we and then the fixation duration time report how long a respondent look at the area of interest in seconds. So how long that you look at it according to seconds. So it is a very short, because actually we don't expect that people will just stare at the picture for a very long time. Time to the first fixation is actually a matrix that reflects the time that it looks it took a respondent to fix the sites on the selected area of interest. So the research method participants, so we have actually recruited in group 1, there's from the engineers in the project design company, and then group 2 is novice engineers. So and then group 3 that they are on-site workers. So what is the difference between the on-site workers and also like engineers? So engineers, sometimes they can go to the office, and then sometimes they have to go work outside. So it means that the time, in terms of the time, that which group that they have got more chance to like face this kind of like hectic stuff, of course, is the one who are working on site, because they for engineers, sometimes they can actually go outside, they can go to the site office. Even though that engineer can also suffer from like dangerous event, like for example, we just have got an event where the tower crane collapsed in Hong Kong, and then a lot of the engineer that they were hit by the tower crane. They were in the site office by then, but then around, I forgot how many of them, there's 4 or 5 that they were killed in that event. So that's why that actually even for engineers, because the one who when they investigate, they also discover that actually they were the one who is like make decision about the tower crane. So to a certain extent, somehow that the wrong decision kill themselves actually. So that's why that even for engineers, they should know some of the safety knowledge. They should have got some kind of training on that. So the research methods to data analysis fully cross-factorial designs explore all possible levels of a given set of factors, and they can provide a condensed summary of the factors' effects, simplifying the interpretation of the factorial design. So and it has been applied in agricultural research and also legal psychology. So this kind of like eye tracking stuff, factorial design in experiment, a lot of them they are actually used in the psychological side, okay, psychology side. So the authentical factorial design. So we have got like some of the factors. Okay, we have got like for example Fi to M. They are actually the common factors of Y. Design of experiment through a factorial model is Y equals to F of x1, x2, x and then up to xk, and then plus the error term. So you can see that actually this is something for which has got a very close relationship with regression. But the design of experiment is in itself that they try to design mainly for the experiment, because most likely experiment cannot recruit a lot of people. I remember that one of the professors asked, "Hey, how come the participant is so small in number? There should be like over 100." Well, for software, for questionnaire, yes, it is possible, but for experiment, most likely no, because if we need to find somebody to do a 5-day experiment, it's very hard to do that. So a full factorial experiment shows that all the factors combine at all levels for testing, and all the main effects and also interaction effects can be determined. And what does it mean by interaction effects? The main and then also the main effects. So main effects may be like, for example, the number of experience that is at work. For example, the age. Okay, for example, not for the age for the sum. So it's mainly it's like the experience as like, for example, that he is a novice, he is an engineer, whatsoever. And then we also have got the main effects, like for example with or without chatbot. Interaction effects, it means that two factors cross over one another. Chatbot with more experience and with less experience of worker. Chatbot with, like, for example, whether or not they have more complex picture, or they have less complex picture. That sort of things that when two factors are combined together, we want to see the combined effects. So that is a kind of the interaction effects already. So the results of the heat maps actually show that the group 3 with the rich site experience has a broader focus. So you might ask a question, hey, why then? Why even group 3, where they have got a rich site experience, they have got a broader focus? So we actually asked them why, what is the reason? So the group 3 on-site workers sounds to be distracted. Okay, what they say, however, is that they have to look for the dangerous besides the main dangerous points. And then they have to show more, and then they actually have to look in a wider picture, rather than just like those novice or others that they have got a rather narrow field. So they just look at the exit, they just look for the exit, but they do not like keep watching in the other places. But most of the circumstances when we talk about like those who are experienced, they know that actually the site is like ever-changing, is an ever-changing environment. So you cannot just like you find a exit and then you just stop it and then they stay at that area. That's not possible, because as otherwise then you may not be able to read you may not be able to see other hexes which just arrive after 2 minutes later on. So that's why then what they say is that they will have got a so you can see that for the heat map they have got a wider area of fixation. And then for some details, like in task B, the option 1 that they have got the highest point. So the participants' fixation count in the group 1 engineer from the project design company was about 29.4%. And then from the group 3, that is the fixation is like significantly higher than group 2 with the 12.5%. So it means that group 2 novice engineers, they have got a narrow and a cautious focus. So they have got rather narrow fields. So you just look at like which one that is a hexet. Once they find it, that's it. Okay. But for others, they are experienced that they do not have got such kind of a narrow focus. So the general conclusion obtained by the heat map verify the quantitative analysis. So we try to test the significance of the eye tracking experimental data, the fixation duration, and also in the 3 groups. So the table shows the fixation duration versus the experience using the F-test method with 95% confidence. And the 2 tests indicate that the shortest fixation time with group 3 participants, so where the on-site experience were the richest. So the mean value of the different group with different experience levels was significantly different in task A, but not in task B. So that means that the 2 photos, when we talk about like the 2 photos, the results that is different. Half of the participants in each group accepted our chatbot training. So we want to actually, the ultimate goal is to see whether or not that after they have talked to the chatbot tell them the answer, whether or not after 5 days time that they have not forgotten it and they can still find similar hexes. So the hexes are not the same, but we try to let them see something that is like very similar and then show them again. So that is to say our experiment stimulus was not significant in the single factor analysis. Here it is not significant. So if we just look at the chatbot, is it significant that significantly improved the hex awareness? No. And when we try to look at like other factors like health, we actually have included health there. We have included SF survey and see whether or not that the health is a condition. Because sometimes if they have got poor mental health, like they cannot sleep well, for example, and then they have got like poor physical health where they have got like they have got pain issue, for example, all these may distract them from like concentrating to figure out where is the hexet. So we try to incorporate this of health factor. But the health factor, however, they are not significant, unfortunately. Even though that we may think that, well, if you do not sleep well, then probably that you do not have got a very good response to the hex awareness. So by actually we try to let them wear the smartwatch and to test whether or not that they sleep better, have got a more deep sleep, okay, and then whether or not that they have got improvement in that. But we find that there is no such an implication. Okay, that's to say our experimental stimulus was not significant in single factor analysis, and then the complexity of the level of the hexes were not separately analyzed. So as the fixation duration is a response variable, we create a general full factorial the experiment with the 3 factors: experience, whether or not that they are novice, whether or not they sit in the site office like engineer, or whether or not they have got like they have got a much more experience like those who work on the site. And complex, so whether on as what we have seen is that in the testing photos, one is like very complex with a lot of people in, like it seems that there are a lot of dangerous parts in different parts. And then another photo where we can see that it is like somebody who do not wear the suit, the safety suit. That's it. And then so there's a related to the complex. So we have got, you can see we have got experimental results. We try to analyze it by Minitab. So the results here that you can see that after conducting the factorial analysis in Minitab, then we check the optimum lambda and also the obtain the Pareto chart. So for here, you can see the response and fixation duration that for the case of the experience one, for the experience for the complex for the complex vector, it seems that the fixation time in the response in its fixation is actually longest. And then when we see the relationship like AC that refers to the experience with the complex, and then BC there's a chatbot with complex, and also AB there's a experience with the chatbot. So you can see that the chatbot in itself that they have got the shortest fixation, so they can identify the hazard very in a very short time. So it just implied that it just implied that this group of the people that after they have got a safe the chatbot training, that is like particularly useful to them. So the main effects for the fixation duration, so we have got the experience, we have got the chatbot, and also complexity. So you can see that the experience in itself that they have got kind of like differences. So for example, for group 3, where they have actually not much experience in that. Okay, so the results is actually different from those that they have got a lot of experience that they are working on site. So and then for the interaction results, so the interaction results that we try to have got is the chatbot times experience and complex and experiences, and also complex and chatbot. So interaction effects analysis for the 3 factors as shown in the following figures, that besides the control also that the visual expression of the interaction effects of the 2 factors on the response variable and also fixation duration. So the research investigate the usage of the chatbot. So we have got some of the discussion here. So results in itself, they just tell us that actually the that we have got those who are novice, and if they use like chatbot, that is like they have got a much more improvement in the hazard awareness. But if we talk about those who have got the experience, if we still let them to use a chatbot, it seems that the usage is not really useful. So part of the main reason is that they have already got a lot of the safety training each of the year. So if we talk about like those some sort of like wearing or not wearing the safety protection tool, and then whether or not that they too many people that on some certain platform that it can cause dangerous to them. But that's all things that they know it very clearly. So this sort of things that it seems that chatbot it's not really useful to them. So we experience with the 3 main factors. That is the work experience, the test scenario capacity, the presence or absence of the chatbot for safety training, interaction with the hazard awareness of the construction practitioners. So the eye tracking matrix durations with a small value for a specific area indicate that the visual search range is large, and the workers were rich in field experience, have actually good hazard awareness. So chatbot in itself, they enhanced the hazard awareness, but was affected by other factors. So mainly the factors like whether or not they have got experience or they have not much experience, like just like nervous. And then the chatbot safety training weighs the participants' subconscious recognition of the construction hexes and improves other hex awareness. So why we give them the chatbot, the main reason is that if they, usually when we just have got a face-to-face training, if that happens daily, you may not realize that, well, there is like some kind of the problem there. And then that kind of like face-to-face training, sometimes like some students that may, some of the trainees, not students here, some trainees that they may not really be that concentrated. And then, or even if they are concentrated, because like kind of the lecture material stuff is like sort of like boring maybe, not much interest. But if we talk about the chatbot stuff, then because that is the first time they try to experience it, and then when they see that, they may have got a deeper memory. So what we try to do is that in this method, we try to enhance the memory, because actually we have got a forgotten curve, that kind of like research. So we know that once you have received a training, then your memory will start to like fade off some of the memory afterwards. But if you try to use something that is like very extraordinary, then it can help in terms of learning. So we want to see whether or not that after 5 days, they actually help them to recognize that sort of hex as like what they have done just now, have got a straight safety training. The chatbot should be developed according to different work experience level, because in this research, we actually have not made like different chatbot for different experience. We only mainly, by the time we actually made it for, like, for example, the common issues that we have seen, the common safety problem that we have seen in the construction site, the common issue that we have seen for the refurbishment. So refurbishment is also a kind of construction as per like classification in Hong Kong, and so as the other places. That kind of the work scenario, it always causes a lot of accidents. However, even though that we just talk about like a very simple like 2-meter fall, for example, that is also possible. So chatbot safety training can dramatically improve the hazard awareness and also recognition ability in low complexity scenarios, but little effect on the high complexity construction scenes. So actually, the low complexity, that sort of things that you can see is just like not wearing the safety suit, and then I'll work on that. But then the high complexity construction scene that you can see, there are so many activities we're continuously doing at the same time. So the main problem for which we have seen in the construction sites, however, is that there are actually a lot of the dangerous activities were continuously changes in the construction site on time. So sometimes you can see the problem is somewhere, like for example, somewhere on your left hand side. Okay, sometimes it's like on your right hand side. But that kind of things that you can see that actually is so dramatically changed, so complex that individuals in itself that experience, sometimes it's also difficult to identify, because we, if we work on site, we are also working on our own work as well. So that actually also have got an implication as like when we develop a chatbot that is like useful, probably that we have to see whether or not that for the complexity issue that we can incorporate into the chatbot, so that they can have got so that they can actually solve the problem like this. So complexity of the potential hazard is an issue when we try to develop a chatbot. We have to pay more attention to working with the construction site experience. So why? Those construction site worker, if they have got experience, they may also not pay attention to those hazard stuff. They may try to use a cutting edge problem, cutting edge issue method in order to, like, for example, do the work in a shorter time, so that they can earn the highest salary. Because a lot of circumstances, you complete your work, then you can receive the money. You have not completed your work, then you get stuck on it, and then you have no money at all. So that's why that for those who are experienced workers, we also target at that as well. So see whether or not that it is possible to develop a chatbot that they can focus mainly on those like complex tasks, and then construction site experience. Based on their experience, we try to even strengthen their hazard awareness and also the safety knowledge. So gave them attention to the situation and then had more confidence on the in the hazard of the construction site. This is what they show us. Okay. So other factors. So our research also limitations were the experimental design. Because like just one of them asked me, okay, is there any like calibration issue difficult to calibrate? Yes, because a lot of ultimately we have a lot of the cases where we cannot use it. The main reason is that well the calibrating is an issue, and then we also have got a that is limited to a frequency of the 30 hertz. So for the online eye tracking, so which is not very high, meaning that this may limit the eye tracking fixation and also other data. Because for the fixation for the test, we didn't give them a lot of time. The main reason is that most of them, they have got a lot of the jobs in hand, and then the participants do not want to give so much time for you to like do the experiments. And even when we for example, sometimes we just say that, well, if I work on site 1 hour, then I can earn a lot of money. So that's why that in case of in having few all these, because those construction workers or like engineers, for example, they do not have got a very strong minds to like work for the something that they cannot earn any money. Like for example, this kind of like project. So therefore, that is also a kind of like limitations. So furthermore, with a larger number of the volunteers and a higher degree of the collaboration, so it may be possible to obtain more useful data. Probably that even for the tool can be further developed as well. So our experimental design use a low-cost chatbot. So actually, the chatbot is very low cost. The main reason is the chatbot is for Telegram is free, and then for the photo we have got also free, and then so as like for the chatbot in itself, that kind of things that can be done through Python. So Python is also a free programming tool as well. So as the experimental treatment factor to study the impacts of the chatbot safety training on the hazard awareness. So on-site experience and complexity of the dangerous scenes are intentional factors. So we actually introduced a design of experiment full factorial experiment design method. So for the DOE itself, the good point is that they can handle the regression, even though that we have got a very small size of the participants. So as otherwise, if you try to use a regression, well, the adjusted R square must be very low because the number of participants is very small. So the number of cases is also equally small as well. So results also that chatbot safety training could improve the novice and also the lesser site experienced workers hazard awareness even under the forgetting curves proposition at the end of the 5th day of the experience. Low cost chatbot safety training could improve this the workers hazard awareness. So and the design needs to be adjusted, however, according to the participants' construction experience and also their work. So we have to be very concentrated on that particular work, but not on the other type of the work. Okay, so this means that it is some sort of kind of like that we have got kind of like specialty in that sort of the area. So a classroom training may require many participants and also cost for trainer. And as people used to online training after the COVID pandemic, so there is evidence by like online education, Coursera, ethics, for example. Such results imply that the Telegram chatbot may supplement some sort of like face-to-face hazard awareness training. So we expect that there are a lot more different type of the hazard awareness training where they can actually use like different tools to help them. So previously we have seen like VR, and now we talk about Telegram, and then we are expecting that we may have got some other things like, for example, Excel, and also some other online, that kind of stuff as well. So so for here, that one is actually the end of our presentation. So in case that if you have got any questions or whatsoever, then you can also find me and also ask me questions. Of course, you can also ask me now. But if you find that, well, I have got some kind of the questions that I would like to ask then you can actually also oops.
Okay, well, we have a few minutes for questions, Rita. Thanks very much for your presentation. You put in a lot of stuff in the presentation, and I'm sure there'll be questions around on the stuff that you presented. So if you have a question, you can either kind of unmute yourself or raise your hand. I have one question, kind of, Rita, just to start off, and I may have missed it, but you in your tests, and I think it was to do with your eye tracking tests. I think you had quite a few people for whom you didn't have any valid results. So I think for about 10 out of the 24 group 3, you didn't have valid results. Why was
that?
Eye
tracking is the eye tracking developed by myself? Is that
again,
this
sorry?
question?
Yeah, I mean there was and some, you know.
No. The eye tracking is not developed by myself. The eye tracking is actually.
That's not the question. My question is, there were about 10 out of the 24 of the group 3 for which you didn't have any valid results.
Yeah.
And so
actually, because let me go back to that PPT.
So
that was actually the question. That was a problem that we have got. We have got, because in case of the experiment, one of that is about, like, for example, they do not have any sort of the results. So valid results that we have got, like, different, what we refer to valid result. So say, for instance, sometimes that they may just say, I want to drop off. I don't want to continue with the experiment, because we have to let them wear the smartwatch for 5 days. And then because the experiment in itself, that we have to let them sign the ethical approval, the participation, and then they have to agree to participate, and then they can actually leave the experiment at any time. Because actually for more than kind of the experiment, that we allow them to leave at any time. And then so that we have got some people that they leave before the experiment is complete. We have got some of the we have got, like, as what I said before, the eye tracking itself, that not sure why they have actually completed the experiment, but then in the system itself it cannot show it. And then that is something for which, like, we don't know why as well, because we have recorded and some that he has actually used it, but then ultimately the eye tracking results is like 0. It cannot be found in the database. So that's why that we can see that we have got only like 14 is valid.
Right. And do you think that has any impacts on your findings or results, or were those people there
is impact, actually, that there is impact, because actually if we can have got more of the results, of course, that we larger the participants, the results of course is better. But I think, like, this kind of experiment, we really cannot have got like 100% of, like, all of them they are valid. We don't have got like a lot of them they are valid. We have got like sometimes we have seen that sometimes that they may have got how to say is that, where they have a lot of like unexpected events as well. Suddenly they maybe they just want to drop off, something like that.
Okay, so I think we have 2 more hands up. So Mark, so we have only about 2 or 3 minutes for the questions and answers. So
okay. I'm going to be really quick. Rita, I think this is really interesting, and I think for all of us watching, we'll be looking at these technologies, and they're going to get better, and they're going to get a lot better in the next few years, and that's going to change the landscape of how we introduce people to this kind of material and to the perception of risk. One of the things that we've been talking about in our department is the extent to which the understanding of some of these issues is tacit. It's not articulated knowledge. And what really interests me, this is just a comment really rather than a question, is how your chatbot is actually trying to dig out what's within us, but we don't necessarily articulate, and trying to get us to articulate it. I just want to know if you got any reflections on that, because that seems a very key thing that we do educationally.
You mean what kind of articulate? Sorry, I can't
So
catch you.
what we see with our eyes, we don't
Yeah.
necessarily have words for.
Okay.
But when the chatbot starts to engage with us, we start to understand what we're looking at and articulate it.
Exactly. Because sometimes by the time we do not do any sort of like eye tracking stuff, then we may think that we actually understand what is a hexagon. And then, however, if we have got the eye tracking, then that allow us to see whether or not that you can identify the hexagon in a very short time, or like you are not very concentrated sometimes. Sometimes there's some people that they are not very concentrated actually. Why there is a hexagon? It may be because of the fact that some people they are not very concentrated. And then this sort of the eye tracking that may also reflect some kind of like subtle stuff like this. So in the everyday life training, in terms of like construction safety training, we always miss this part. We just like, for example, we may let them fill in the questionnaire, let them fill in the test result, let them complete an examination. The examination may tell us something, but it may not really tell us, like, for example, the track, so how they see something. So if we can see, we can actually know deeper about how they see something, what are the steps, then it may also help us to develop something that is like much more better in terms of the training for the hexagon awareness, that kind of thing as well.
Okay. Final question briefly.
Yeah, so Rita, thank you for the presentation. And this is, my question is going to be a follow-up to Mark's question. So we have all this feedback information that we as researchers get on eye tracking and from chatbot. So how do we use that feedback, use it, we give it back to the workers so that they can actually learn from the eye tracking data themselves? How do we integrate it into the chatbot again? Is there something that you have done or you're looking forward to do? Is there anything else that you would do in the future differently that could maybe enhance the chatbot?
Well, actually, the chatbot in itself, that we can see that actually those like novice, is the most beneficial group. So they actually benefit most. But the question is that for those who are experienced one, that we have to find some other ways or means to do it. The one of the factors that we conjecture is that probably those who are experienced, they think that, well, they're so stupid that I know it. They do not really pay attention to those like chatbot stuff as well. So that's why that the results is not really significant to those experienced one. This means that in that case that we may have to do something in order to like make a better one that suit the experience. And then so as like when we talk about those eye tracking, how we can bring that back to them, then we can actually to some extent tell in terms of like, for example, job interview, then we can also use more or less similar technology to see whether or not that these people is like they have got a very concentrated, they have got a high concentration, or they actually do not have got a high concentration. Because sometimes like when we talk about like why the accidents happen, maybe because the person that he or she always that is like absent-minded, and then always not concentrated on like doing whatever thing. So this sort of things that this sort of the minor stuff that can be reflected in the eye tracking results as well.
Okay. Okay, I actually have one more question.
Okay.
Very quickly. So, so for in your publication, you mentioned this app that firefighters or the chemical, when there's a chemical hazard, then the US has developed this app which that people can use to work with chemical hazards. If there's a fire, or there is a truck that derails and spills chemicals. Using that app is fine, but what about when in the construction site? Would using chatbots actually be like a distraction to workers? Is there a way we can actually have chatbots in the construction
site? That was actually the question that we have faced when we apply for the Research Grant Council, because this research results is actually the research results of a grant that we have obtained from the Research Grant Council of Hong Kong. We actually have got one question. Will that be like sort of like distraction? Well, from those who are on site, then we also need to tell them that this sort of things that you have to do it, like for example, when you are not on site, like when you are like, for example, when you are at home or some other places, but not you should not
Okay.
use that on site. But to be very frank, because most of us, when we are in Hong Kong, most of us we are using like WhatsApp. When some people that is in mainland, for example, they are using WeChat, and then when there are somebody is like Korea, they usually use like Line. So it means that most of us we already get used to like using this kind of like mobile apps. And then even now that some of us that we may use like ChatGPT while we are like using on the mobile phone as well. So it
Okay.
means that this is unavoidable. So the all that
So-
we can do is that to let them aware that you cannot use it while you are working on site, which is very dangerous.